Welcome to Manotick StringWorks. Please remember to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for more video content. Hey there, welcome back to Manotick StringWorks. So today on the bench we have this really nice Gretsch Streamliner in Torino green. The owner's dropped it off for a string change in the setup. It's a new guitar, new to him. Let's look at some of the features. We've got nice Bigsby. This is a semi-hollow, so we have a center block running down the middle. Got two volume controls, a tone and a master volume up here. Pickguard. So tunematic bridge. And then these are Gretsch pickups labeled BT2S. So they're Filtertron sort of looking style. Alright, very nice. Three-way switch. Body has some nice binding all around. Really good looking guitar. So we have 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 frets. Fret inlays. Nice big Gretsch headstock. Still some plastic on the truss rod cover. Yeah, so brand new guitar. Client just wants to set it up and make sure it's playing as best as it can. So let's get started. Alright, well, let's have a quick check of the electronics. It should be fine, it's brand new. So we have a three-way switch here. Turn the volumes up. And then there's a master here. This should be both. And this should just be the bridge. Yeah. That works. Well, let's take some initial measurements. So string height. I'll do this one at the 17th. You could do the 12th. But we like to see, so if you do Gibson style, then we are 5/64 on the bass side, 3 on the treble. I find that a little excessive. So this is a 4/64 gauge. It's a little high. Yeah, it's starting to touch right there, so that's pretty good. Let me put a 5/64 under here. Yeah, that's nice. So the action's nice where it is in that Gibson style setup. So this is a Gibson scale neck, so 24.75, 24 3/4. So I'm just going to put the notch fret ruler on there just to have a peek. And I can see a little bit of space right under the, right in the middle here, 7, 8, 9. So that's good. But let's measure that. So I'm going to do 10 thousandths. So I put the capo on the first fret, and I'm going to push down on the last fret. For those of you who like to do it in the playing position, makes no difference. Yeah, so that's not really touching it all. Let me try 12 thousandths. Just barely touching. So I'd probably tweak the truss rod a little bit, tighten it up. So this is a new guitar, so I'm pretty sure the truss rod has never been adjusted after it left the factory. The truss rod cover still has plastic on it. Let's have a look just in case something weird has gone on here. Of course, a non-functioning truss rod is pretty much the end of your guitar. Certainly for me to be doing anything with it. Alright, so here we go. Whoop. Get that last screw off. Oh yeah, that looks pretty new. Oh, that's the wrong light. It's a ultraviolet one. Oh yeah, I'll bring it in close and you can see all the polishing compound in there. I'm always amazed at this, really. Look in there. So this is a new guitar, it's left the factory. All that polishing compound is still in there. I know it's hard to get at maybe, but you know, you'd think they'd blow that out at least, right? Alright. I'm going to loosen it up with a Q-tip. Just get in there and see if I can't get some of that off. Well, that looks a lot better. They could have just done that at the factory. Alright, so we've got it open. Let's have a peek here. It's a 4mm, pretty sure. Yeah. Oh, look at that. No tension on the truss rod at all. It feels like it's a two-way. So we want to tighten this up a little bit. So we have to go clockwise, so right to the right. And you know what? I don't think that's going to be the best one. Use the T handle here, 4mm. There we go. Alright, so you can see there's no tension. Now I've got a little bit of tension. So I'm going to turn it a bit, tighten it up. Alright. I think we'll just leave it like that. So when we change the strings, we know we've put a little bit of tension on. It's always good to have tension on the truss rod. Don't leave it loose like that. Alright, so last thing I want to check in this initial setup is the nut action. So I like to see 18 to 20 thousandths at the first fret. Here's 18. Oh yeah, definitely touching here. And don't forget, this is all tuned up, so always do these measurements while you're tuned up. So the 6th string is touching. A string's a little high maybe. The D string. Yeah, I could probably maybe bring down the A and the D. Let's try 20 thousandths. Yeah, I might want to adjust the A and the D just a little bit. Deepen the nut slots. I'll probably widen the D and the G string, flare it out at the back a little bit anyways, and then we'll put some nut lube in here because we have a Bigsby vibrato down the other end. Alright, so just something I want to show you at the headstock. So just looking at the string windings, so here we have 2 windings, 2 windings. Oop, now we've got barely 1 winding. And that's definitely a recipe for string slippage. So for the wound strings, so 4, 5, and 6, you want to have at least 2 or 3 windings, depending on the height of the post, etc. And for the plain strings, you know, 3 or 4 windings at least on these posts. So we'll fix that when we restring it. And while I'm here, I'm just going to check, make sure we're pretty snug. Yeah, these are all snug. Barely a 16th of a turn, if that. So it's always a good idea to check them. Alright, well, let's get these strings off. So we have a Bigsby here, so the strings, the ball ends are wrapped around the bar. So what I like to do is we're going to cut all these off. So we're not trying to pull through a whole length of string. Get those out of the way. And that way we can just go in here and carefully, I don't want to scratch up the guitar either. Alright, so we're going to put these D'Addario nickel wound XLs 10 to 46. That was what's on there before, the same gauge. And I'll show you sort of how I do that with the Bigsby. Alright, so let's get that spring back in. Okay, that's just loose in there. Now you're going to take your ball end and you're going to bend it a little bit to a round shape. You can take some pliers too if you want. Just sort of force it into a nice little round. Forget, this has to go around the bar. Now I have a little piece of eraser here that I put under there, so I'm just going to trap the ball end onto the little spike that's sticking out. That way when I pull it over, it's not going to fall out. And I'll just show you closely what that looks like, right? So I just have a little piece of eraser, and each string I'll just move it over. That'll keep the tension. I can just leave it on that one, to be honest. A lot of times it won't move. But just something like that, just to jam under. You know, an eraser is soft, it's not going to hurt the finish of the guitar. Do what I just did. I forgot to go under the bar, the roller bar here. I went over the top of it like that. It's okay, just get it off the tuning machine, pass it underneath again. And again, I've got that rubber eraser there to help keep things in place. Alright, now that you have the strings in place, going under the front roller bar, I'm going to move that eraser out of there. And you just want to make sure now, before you get the strings up to pitch, you know, full tension, is just move them so that they're right over their posts. They will tend to slide around a bit, but if you do this now, that'll help you out. Okay, that's all looking good. I'll just bring that in a little closer. So there you go. You just want to make sure you're right over the posts as much as you can. So once you've strung everything up, you want to tune it up to pitch, and I take this opportunity to listen as well to hear if there's any pings or binding going on at the nut, because you're running a lot of string through here right now because the strings are loose. Yeah, I'm not hearing anything. So you want to get them up to pitch. Now the initial time, they're not going to stay in tune. Do it once, do each string. Again, listen for any binding, pinging noises. See, I didn't find the D string was tuning as quick, so it might be binding a little bit in the slot. Alright, so we're up to pitch. So now we want to stretch the string, so grab the strings. I like to start at the 12th fret, and especially the wound strings, the 4, 5, and 6, they really need to be stretched out. So give them a good tug. You don't have to be gentle. And you're going to pull at least a semitone, if not a full tone, out of these strings. So you can do that different ways. You can sort of hold down the strings halfway, pull them up, do it the other way. Doesn't matter, just keep doing it. So I like to do this at least, you know, a good 3-4 times. Yeah, and I pulled out a good. Now that also pulls out any of the loose wrappings and helps with that. And it settles the strings down. And because we have this Bigsby vibrato, you can do that a few times as well. That'll help. You heard that, right? So when I was using the Bigsby for the first time, now it's out of tune, right? That's because the strings here weren't all settled in to the post yet. And you can hear we're really out of tune, right? So you gotta tune up again. So that'll help sit the string on the post, on the Bigsby arm there. So it's just another thing you have to think about when doing setup with the Bigsby. That's better. Okay, I'm going to let this sit for a few hours, if not overnight, and then come back, stretch them again. I might stretch the strings again, and then we'll do a full setup. Sometimes you don't want to take the strings off for whatever reason. You can get these string spreaders. They usually come in packs of 2. And what you do is you loosen the strings. You don't have to get them super loose. I got them relatively loose here, and then you put the strings under the spreaders like that. And it just keeps it off the fretboard. And then you can work on the frets. So, you know, in this case, I'm going to use a 401,000 fret eraser on the frets. It's just a way of touching up your frets, cleaning them up without having to, you know, take it all off if you're not restringing the guitar. If you're restringing the guitar, obviously you don't have to do this step, but I thought it would be fun to show you. So, string spreaders. Alright, so the guitar's been sitting for a while, and I'm going to check the setup. So we're going to start with the neck relief. Tape on the first fret. I'd like to see 10 thousandths. And remember, I preemptively adjusted the truss rod before changing the strings. Yeah, that's much better. It's actually just barely scraping. So 10 thousandths at the 7th fret. That's good. Now we're going to look at the string height. So I like to see 4 64ths at the 17th fret. Works for pretty much most guitars, so I'm going to use 4 64th gauge. I'm going to run that under the string. Yeah, so the E string, so the 6th is low. Yeah, so we've got the 5th and the 6th are pretty low, so I think we're going to have to raise the 6th string up. So there's a thumb wheel, but there's also a screwdriver, and it's generally a little easier to use the screwdriver to do this. And I'm going to put my gauge under. And I don't mind it just a little bit higher than 4. You know, 4.5. Not quite 5, but you know, 5 is okay, and I'll use the 5 now. Yeah, so I think we're good right there. 4 passes under, very little bounce. Okay, good. So check the intonation next. We want to hit the open string, so I've tuned it all up. So there's the A, do the harmonic, and then the fretted note. Pretty good. Again, these are new strings, so you don't want to push down hard. Again, this is a factory setup, haven't changed anything. It's never going to be perfect, the intonation. You're going to try and get as close as you can. So that's good. So I'll check all the strings. Looking good so far. So just to show you here, the G string, it's a little sharp, so we need to lengthen the saddle. So in the Tune-O-Matic, so the D string, right? The G, so a little sharp. So you're going to use a flathead screwdriver, and you're going to turn so the saddle moves away and lengthens the string. So sometimes you're going to have to loosen everything up so things can move. There we go. And just keep an eye on it and see if it moves. Sometimes you gotta shove it along a little bit. There we go. its place. Tune it up. There we go. That's a lot better. So you just play back and forth until you get it pretty close. Alright, so we're going to check the string action. I like to see 18 thousandths, and that's what it was before on the 6th string before we changed, which is nice. The 5th string is a little higher than that. The 4th as well. So I definitely say the A and the D string could probably come down a little bit. But let's check the 20. Yeah, I think we're going to drop the A and the D just a little bit, because this is about 18, the 6th string, but we've got 20 and 20, or yeah, about 18 to 19 thousandths here, but these are definitely a little higher. So I've got my Hosco nut files here, so I'm going to pick, this is 36 thousandths here. We're going to use that for the A string. So just loosen the string, lift it out of the nut slot. Don't have to go down much. So we're going to go down about 10-12 strokes to start. Remember, aim backwards and down. Let's put that back in. Always have to tune up. That's good. Let's see where we're at. Let's start with the 20. It'll probably come down a little more. So that's going to go back and forth until I have the A and the D right around 20 thousandths. Alright, so I'm happy with the nut slot. So what I'm going to do is use some nut lubrication. And again, this is a vibrato equipped guitar, so a Bigsby vibrato. And that means when you use the vibrato, you're actually moving the strings a little bit back and forth. So it's not a bad idea to put a little lubrication in the nut slot. So they'll just go one by one. And someone's already put, you might be able to see it, some graphite, right? Some pencil lead. That seems to work too. So I just put a little bit out there. And this is like almost like a jelly, like a petroleum jelly in its form. I'll push out a little bit. There we go. Not sure if you can see that. So there's a little applicator here. I'm just going to move that in the slot. And the action of the string sliding back and forth will lubricate itself, right? So I'll get that back up to pitch. I'll do each string one at a time. Got a little bit left on here. And again, the string, tightening up the string is going to pull it through. Alright, well, let me do all of the strings. Alright, so last part of the setup is to check the pickup height. And I like to see 1/8 of an inch on the bass side, 3/32 on the treble for both pickups. I have my gauge, so the bass and treble side thickness. Push down on the last fret, and then try and pass the gauge, or whatever you're using to measure, underneath the string on the top of the pickup. And in this case I can't, on either side. So we have to lower these. Put your finger on the pickup so you can feel it moving. It's easier sometimes than seeing it move. Close. Again, these are starting points. adjust them to your liking. Don't put them too close, and don't put them too far away. Alright, well that's going to be it for this guitar. Really pretty guitar. I'm going to get these strings off, these string ends, before I cut myself. I think the owner is going to enjoy playing this. Looks good, plays well. Get some of that. And Gretsch makes really cool instruments. You know, they're definitely unique. They're their own style. Even though it's a cutaway, you know, hollow body, semi-hollow bodies like a 335, you still know it's a Gretsch, right, when you see it. So I like that about Gretsch in particular. And when you get into some of the other models, you know, they fancy things up with their own hardware knobs, kinds of cool things like that. So definitely a fun guitar to look at. You know, if you don't want like an Epiphone Dot 335 and can't afford a Gibson ES 335, I think a Gretsch is a great option, especially with a Bigsby, because that's pretty unique and cool, and a good value for money as well at the same time. Alright, that looks better. All buttoned up. Okay, well that's it for this setup. This Gretsch Streamliner in Torino green. Lovely color. Really pretty guitar. No surprises here. It's set up really nicely. It's a new guitar. So I think the owner is going to enjoy it for a long time. So hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. I'm going to go enjoy the nice warm weather outside. Take care.